Hello and welcome back. Today I'm going to be playing some Need for Speed 3 for the PlayStation 1. So let's see if I have the right memory card on here. And of course I do. Lovely. Alright. Let's see, what should I say? Let's do what this game is intended for, and let's do some Hot Pursuit. The menu music I despise the most. Skill lever, yeah, I am not a good speaker. Skill level, I'm going to do beginner, because anything else I will lose, and I honestly don't like losing. Let's choose Hot Pursuit. Everybody loves Hometown, but let's mix it up a little bit. You know what? Fuck it. We'll do Hometown. Mirrored. No. Night driving. Maybe. Weather. No. Track info. Nah, we don't need that. Laps. 4 or 2? I like 2 laps because it's a quicker race that way. So let's do 2 laps. Corvette? No. Countach? Maybe. Yeah, this thing that I've never heard of again after outside this game. Apparently, we cannot choose the Ferrari because they don't like to be involved in pursuits. I don't know if that's true, but the Ferraris are about the only ones you can't choose for the pursuits. Kind of annoying. Lamborghini Diablo, my choice favorite, probably. Ooh, or the Jaguar. XJR15. Mercedes. CLK GTR. Maybe. The El Nino. I would automatically pick this, but no, let's not do that today. And there's a 355 that is also turned into, later on. This game came out in 1998. By 2003, it was up to the 355 Spider, I believe. But the 350 Spider, basically, it was based off the principles of this car. Small, compact, Ferrari, yeah. Corvette, no. I'm leaning towards a Countach if I can find it in a decent color, because you're very limited on colors. Silver just looks awful in my opinion. Now, actual pictures of the car being silver looks great. The game's rendering of it looks awful. Purple, no. Red, maybe. Blue, yeah, it kind of blends in too much. I guess I'll go with green, why not? And my opponent should be, traffic, none. I don't feel like colliding with things every 2 seconds. Yeah, might as well make it even playing field. Face him. And Need for Speed. Yeah. I used to love doing that. I don't know why. They used to say NFS start. Load times. This game had quick loading times. I guess sometimes it did. Lovely background scene there, pieced together. Alright. Let's listen to this monotone dude.
3, 2, 1.
He sounds nothing like the PC version. And even though I have the same exact car, my opponent speeds away. I'm using arcade mode instead of expert, because I like to power slide easily. Let's see. Yeah. Whoa. Well, I should put in the German cheese. That'd be awesome. I love it because you can put in certain cheese where the cops will yell at you in German and shit. And it's just quite hilarious because they essentially say the same stuff, but they sound meaner. Especially the one girl cop. It just sounds funny. I don't know. You speak German, you can probably translate those as the same shit. Yeah, you're in a 1982 Ford.
I want to ask you again. Stop the car.
but not with a souped-up Corvette cop car. Ooh, power sliding. Works wonders. Out of my way, opponent. Not my horn. Oh, that was my horn. How does this button do? Whoa, avoided that. See if I can reach a top speed of 181. Here we go. I'm already... there we are. I'm less than 20 away. Go over that sign because no one needs it anyways. They can't see there's a turn here and... yeah, max speed, baby.
It's the final lap.
Yeah, alright, it's the final lap. See how quick... let's see if I can power slide through this like a pro. Yeah, there we go. And through the covered bridges in the air. Oh yeah, that's what they probably got a spike belt up for me. Let's hope I don't hit that. Oh boy. Oh, my opponent's right behind me. Holy crap. I can't control the car. It's going too fast. This corner sucks. Whoa. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. No spike belt today. Woo! Ric Flair's in the building. Power sliding like a pro. Yeah, there we go. All right. No. You will not be coming up behind me. No, no creepers. No. You are the police, but I don't give a shit. No, I'm not stopping. My opponent is kind of behind me. There he is. You see all the little pretty flashy lights. Yeah, alright. And here I go. And across the line. Alright.
That's your best lap. You've won the race.
Won the race. My opponent... see, that was on easy and my opponent was right on my ass. If it was on... if it was on expert, I'd be toast.
You've got a top 10 time for this track.
Yes. And I'm number 7. How fast did I go? 181. Alright. Alright. Enough of that crap. Arcade style. Some of these times in simulation. Excuse me. I honestly don't think that these best times, like best laps and total times, should be based. Like, I mean, look at this. You can have the best lap in arcade, but on simulation you can be shit because it could be completely different. I think this game should have 2 different things: your arcade top 10 scores and your simulation. I didn't play too much simulation, but I'm just saying, you know, because I never got anywhere near this time. My car was slow as shit. Let's see. Continue. None of us got any fines. No, do not want to see the restart. Do not want to see the record. Let's just go back to the main. Let's see what else we can do. Let's see. Sometimes the ending loading times are kind of a there we go. Alright, let's do hot pursuit again. Change it. I'm not a fan of this one, you'll see why, but let's do it anyway. And we're going to step it up a notch. I'm going to choose my Lambo. Canary yellow. We're gonna go him to Lambo. Let's start this beast. Oh my goodness. Yeah, look at that beautiful car. Oh, if I could own that car. It's only like $78,000 to own now. Versus $200,000 back in 1996-7, so, or back in 97, 98. All right. Motel vacancy.
3,
Western
2,
Motel.
1, go!
All right. I already picking my Cops love to hide in this little... Whoa. They'll probably come right out right. Yep, there they go. They're hiding in the little gas station. And I don't like the stage because of cactuses and... Oh my goodness.
This is the police.
Because of cactuses and that
This
type of
is
shit.
a warning. Slow down and keep
I got
the
a
speed
warning,
limit.
which means I don't actually get a ticket. But they're going to ticket me now because I'm like flying. Look how much faster acceleration there is. These cop cars must have like some serious nitro.
Police, pull over.
This is a beginner. This is like this is what they call a beginning track.
Spill yourself.
And I'm struggling. Not good for me. Alright.
I need some backup now.
Well, there's a little shortcut here I can learn. It really saves almost no time. Mainly because, well, by the time you do... Whoa, what are you doing? Mainly because by the time you have to slow down and make that sharp turn, you might as well just done the real corner. You maybe save like 2 seconds, not even 2 seconds, not even like a second. You save like maybe less than half of a second, which really isn't worth it in retrospect. Gonna get you. Gonna get you. Yeah. Oh no! You made me no!
You're busted. Don't let me catch you
Yeah,
speeding
my
again.
phone got busted too. As he's T-boned me. Alright, well now we both have one fine under our belt, but I have one as well. No, I do not want to do this. Whoa! Whoa. How are these crappy little Chevy Fords, whatever they are, keeping up with me? Alright. Oh, don't go on there. Whoa.
It's the final lap.
You cannot outrun the
You're right, I
police.
can't in real life, but I can in this game. Whoa.
Park it now.
Let's see. Alright, there's a way to navigate through here. I have to go from here
Pull it
to this one
over now.
and make a Y. Yeah, there we go. That's the path. Zip through there. Tip-top speeds. Whoa. But avoiding canyon walls is a must. Holy crap. Oh no! I'm gonna be busted again. Crap. No, Mr. Crappity Crap. Oh, yeah. No, Corvette's on the wrong side of me. If I... Yeah, that could have been bad, because if I hit my handbrake and he was right there, he would have T-boned me, followed me, and I would have been busted. Alright. So that means these cops will be turning around soon, since my opponent's cops have turned around. Why are you still chasing me? Go away. No! You little pony, get the hell away from here. Alright, there we go.
Stop your car.
See ya.
You can't outrun.
Can't outrun the police, you're right. Man. Crap. Holy crap, almost hit 200 in the cave, but not good for the wall. Oh crap. Little bunch of air. I don't know what the roadblock is. If I get enough speed, I can fly right over the spike belt. Oh crap, I'm losing control. Oh no. Oh no, they're not there. Woo! Ric Flair's in the building. Woo!
That's your best lap.
Oh,
You've won the race.
The race, and my opponent comes flying by me without stopping. What a bad opponent. I just wanted to say hi.
Congratulations! You've got a top 10 time for this
I got a
track.
top 10 time for the track. All right, lovely, Jubbly. Let's see, how fast did I get? 195. Damn. Yep, I won. Now, I don't know how some other Diablos got 207, 206, because the max speed on this thing that I've ever been able to pull off is from like 200. Now, that's on most tracks, like 202. And like the highest. I don't know how they get that unless they were drafting or something. These are all prefab times anyways. Oh, wait, was that one? Singing what? No, that's not singing. Forward and mirror. Wow, we got that going forward and mirror. The one got it on knockout. The rest of them are standard races. Alright, next. Alrighty, as the load time seems to take a little bit. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. There we go. I don't know how long that was, but whatevs! Alrighty then. Something. Yeah! Alright. Arcade. Yeah, let's keep on arcade. Atlantica. Let's find out about this track, shall we? Let's humor ourselves. See, this is what modern games don't have in it anymore. This game in itself, as far as space in which it requires, compared to, I just want to say the Blu-ray games that the Blu-ray discs that a lot of games come on today don't utilize their full potential. Technically, if they have a Blu-ray dual layer game, they can fit 50 gigs worth of data on there. Now, most PlayStation 2 games have a DVD that have 4.4 data capacity. I think 4.4 4.2 data. They only ever used half of it. Most PlayStation games used, if they didn't use 700 meg discs, they used 650 discs, whichever way you want to put it, and they use like 70% of it. Most decent games, like this game, I think was 100 and, not 100, I think it was like 300, I think it was like 500 megs, you know, which is quite massive, because they had awesome info like this. Who doesn't want this type of info as it loads? Who doesn't want to know this about the track they're about to race? I mean, look at this.
Reminiscent of the Monaco Grand Prix, this course is a real driver's utopia. Emphasis on racing technique will ensure record times on this futuristic track. A run of narrow canals is capped by a sharp corner and a long bank turn here. Keep to the shoulder for your best line through and expect to hit your top speed. These two wide bank turns both top 180 degrees in radius, but require different strategies to negotiate. Watch your line and your speed. Think fast. The roadway splits twice, running in parallel lengths here. Pick your branch carefully and watch for a chance to switch lanes if necessary.
That's hard to do.
Hold on tight. Chicanes and doglegs are threatening at high speeds. Only alert drivers will navigate these moments successfully.
Yeah, all right. Now see, why don't games, especially racing games, tell you anything about that? Now, I was watching, I just happened to go on YouTube and I was watching Dad Cube's channel. If you don't know Dad Cube, Nerd Cube, look them up. They're pretty good. But I was watching Dad Cube and he was playing Need for Speed Undercover. If that's a PS3 game, I am ashamed of Electronic Arts. I mean, I am so ashamed of them, and I'm so glad I didn't buy that game. Because it looked like absolute shit. Pure 100% garbage. And he was playing on a PS3, so So, because I mean, there are people in the comments saying, "Oh, he's playing this on PC and he has a graphics scaled back. He has a graphics scaled back." No, because when he brings up the menu, you've seen like the X, triangle, square symbols. So I'm like, it's just mind-boggling that EA went from a game pretty much as fine as this to high stakes I will get to Hot Pursuit 2 eventually. That is probably their best to complete and utter garbage. That company is purely trash anymore. I refuse to buy EA games. I mean, I absolutely refuse. I see the EA symbol and I go, I'm going to have to pass. I saw I'll give you a perfect example. I saw SimCity and I was like, yeah, SimCity. Didn't have the money to get it on launch day, and I'm glad I didn't because I seen, they want to do this? They want to do that? Piss off on that. I got my SimCity 3000, 2000, my original SimCity. Fuck it, I'm fine. I'm done with that. SimCity 4, I have that. And then I'm like, I hear The Sims, which didn't have that bad of a problem, but I see The Sims 3, or The Sims 4. I think it's Sims 4, I don't remember which one's up to. But whatever newest Sim came out, I remember seeing that game and just was like, this game is awesome. And the only thing wrong with this game is that little logo in the corner that says EA. Now, you're probably looking at my screen name and going, alright, there's some issues with it, but why'd you choose that name? I was younger, it's something I remember, it's something I like, so I stuck with it. I don't know what to tell you. It's just easier for me to identify myself. But EA has clearly gone in the shitter. Like, they have gone to the toilet. I mean, I haven't seen a company fall from grace. Because it mainly came down to a couple of things. They basically bought up their competition. And then laid all the good talent off. Now, a prime example of them consolidating, laying off people is simply this. Think of Rareware. This is going back to the early 90s. If anybody remembers, or if you're new hearing this, Rareware used to be the shit. That's specific. Rareware and Nintendo were one in the same. There are very few Rareware games that I am aware of that are not outside the N64 in that era. I want to say they were pretty much exclusively Nintendo around that time. From about 96 till roughly 2001-ish. Rareware, that was their peak. And conveniently, they had the best games. 007, Perfect Dark, Banjo-Tooie. Hell, I can listen and go on. I can't even. Banjo-Tooie is just it. Conker's Bad Fur Day. If it said Rareware on the side, it was great. Now, this doesn't even go back to the Super Nintendo. Rareware also had they also did the first Donkey Kong. For fucking Donkey Kong Adventure for the Super Nintendo. So you've seen that symbol. It represented quality. And like I said, a lot of developers went on developing awesome games for Rareware. And then something interesting happened around 2000. Rareware started to basically split up. Let's face it, in 2000, you had PlayStation 1, you had Nintendo 64, you had Dreamcast, and you had the PlayStation 2. This is at the end of 2000. So let's just call this like November 2000. You had those three major game systems out. Rareware was only in Nintendo. Now, Nintendo is already moving on at this point. Fucking codename Dolphin, which I'm counting GameCube, that was on its way. Or wait, no, that wasn't Dolphin. But nevertheless, the GameCube was already on its way, and it seemed like Rareware games had just fell off the mark. And what had happened, I don't exactly know what happened to Rareware in particular, but I know some of the top talent that developed a lot of the great games left and went to go work for another company, which happened to be very, very successful in the first-person shooter genre, at least back then. Or at least early on, if he's worked there for a while, I don't know if they still did. But a lot of the top developers ended up going to work for Activision, or at least a subdivision of Activision. So, why do I go on this rant? Because I'm just saying that when they... Here's what I'm trying to get at, ultimately. I went on this long rant. Here's basically what I'm trying to get at. Is they went on this they had this awesome quest, and a lot of developers started leaving to the company. They were consolidating the company, I'm pretty sure. I want to say by about 2000, they were consolidating the company, and I think when the company was ultimately sold to Microsoft a couple years later, or either that or they acquired them. Nevertheless, but, you know, I look at EA games today, and I think they're utter garbage. Now, there are a few good, I can't even call them good. I personally don't like the company, but I do like the new Battlefields coming out, but I don't know. What they did, you can have one good game, but you can't rely on the same game forever without literally just starting from scratch. And what I mean starting from scratch is series that need to end. Unfortunately, they need to kill Need for Speed. They need to end. The series, they've driven a stake into this series so bad and gave it such a bad name for it that people don't even... Like, when I say Need for Speed, you know, and people go, ew, you know, they hear that. That's what they say. And what they don't realize is there are good Need for Speed games. This is one of them. But they don't want to go. But they don't want to dive back into that. Now, EA, for whatever reasons, will not re-release these games. You'll never see these games on PSN, anything like that.
3, 2, 1, go!
So you'll never see another great Need for Speed. Now, what destroyed Need for Speed, you know, was storytelling. I mean, I played Most Wanted after playing those horrible.
This
I
is
didn't like them.
police.
I guess they weren't that horrible, but it was just such a change of pace. Some people liked them, some people...
All you do is a new paint job.
I didn't like it for a few reasons. I didn't want to go down the street. And basically, in my opinion, Need for Speed Underground only came about because they couldn't get the Fast and the Furious title. I swear that's the only reason. I have no idea if that's true, but I swear, but that game seemed to come out shortly thereafter, you know, the first Fast and the Furious. So they couldn't get the rights for the game, and they wanted to design one anyway, so they just called it Need for Speed. But essentially, it was the same damn thing. They just, either that or they just were like, oh, look at this. These young kids, this culture, let's give this and let's put out this game. Now, granted, I didn't like the series. I'm not to say the games were I can't call the games trash because they weren't. At least the first one was. But it was nowhere near, it just seemed...
You are running out of
It seemed like it didn't deserve the Need for Speed title. They could have called it anything else but Need for Speed. You know, and that's what I think they need to do. They need to kill the Need for Speed name, literally just bury it in its grave at this point. Because the name in itself is over 20 years old. The first game appeared on 3DO back in 1994. So I mean, it's. In my opinion, if you see where the game started, where it went, and to where it is now, it's had a very...
It's the final lap!
It had a very high rise in level of craftsmanship, and it just... The first signs that it was going in the shitter, believe it or not, was after High Stakes. When they came out with Porsche Unleashed. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not a big fan of Porsches, but you can't call, you know, if you... The reason why it broke my heart is, I love Lamborghini. And I remember my mother telling me, like, you would probably love the game if it was Need for Speed Lamborghini. Shit. And I'm like, you're right.
You are
And I
now
was like,
under
you're right,
arrest.
I probably
License
would,
revoked.
but I do like to choose other cars. I do like to play other vehicles. you know, so I mean, that was their first mistake, is they shouldn't have called that Need for Speed to begin with. See, I don't know why they felt the need to do that. You know, I know there was an Lamborghini Nintendo 64 game. It was just called, like, Lamborghini Racing or some shit. So, I mean, that's when, in my mind, they started the demise. Now, the music of that game, I fucking love the music of Porsche Unleashed. The gameplay, though, I don't know. It just, I did not like it. I'll be very honest with you. I did not like the gameplay. The game had, in my opinion, clunky controls. And, you know, the best way to describe it is, you know, you're driving a Porsche and you're like on a piece of paper. You know, these games, I don't know, it definitely, I'll give you an idea. If they were going for realism, they missed the mark horribly. Because I remember racing, I rented the game for a week, and that was the last I ever played it. I should probably give the game another go at this point. But what ended up ultimately happening, I played it, and I was going around the corner, and I remember I turned. Now, the car turned, but it didn't, but I mean, I was going, I don't know, but I just didn't like the way the cars handled. I wasn't a big fan of just only Porsches. Again, I grew up with the games. You know, I remember that coming out in 3D. I remember playing. I remember the variety of games. The original Need for Speed wasn't even called Need for Speed. Like, if you look it up and say, "Where's Need for Speed 1?" You're not gonna find it. It's not called Need for Speed. It's not called The Need for Speed. It was originally called Road and Track Presents The Need for Speed. As far as most places that have it categorized, it's always under Road and Track Presents. It was never under just Need for Speed. So the original Need for Speed lineup, I think, included like shitty Hyundai, or like it wasn't Mitsubishi. I know it had the Mustang. It didn't have a Mustang. It had Dodge Viper, had a Lamborghini Diablo. It had a Porsche 911. It had a Porsche 911. It had a Ferrari, a it's similar to the one that's in this 355. Whoa! Whoa! Look at that guy doing some flips. So I mean, it had a variety of different cars. You know, that never. They were just showing off what it had. Now, that was the original. And then we moved to Need for Speed 2, which some argue, actually I should say many, and Need for Speed 2 used the same graphics engine as this game. So when they went from 2 to 3, they didn't really update the graphics engine, even though this game still got really high remarks. But some consider Need for Speed 2 the best Need for Speed of all. It's just a car slash. Believe it or not, it had no Lamborghinis in it, but it featured Jaguars. I believe it featured McLaren F1 for the first time, and a few other notable cars. The track selection was really good. The music, oh my god, the music track. The score. Let's put it this way: they put the score in this. The score in that game was so massive. I think it consists of like 22 tracks or something, which is a massive score game. I mean, these are long songs too. I actually have the soundtrack. A lot of those songs in Need for Speed 2 are anywhere between 3 and 5 minutes.
It's the final lap.
So I mean, yeah. So I mean, there's extremely long. So many argue that Need for Speed 2 was the best Need for Speed ever made. It's just a hands down. This one kind of added a different element to it. It added the cops into it. Now, you got to remember, at the time in America, this game came out. It was probably due to a couple of things. There were two things that were developing in America at the time. TV rating. You know, the biggest thing that made Hot Pursuits viable, let's face it, the O.J. Simpson chase. If you're old enough to remember watching the O.J. Simpson tapes, you do. Everybody was glued to their TVs. I remember sitting at home and watching. Everybody was just, they were just couldn't believe it that we were watching a chase on TV. And then what came a few years after that, the news stations started carrying hot, like, pursuits, police pursuits on the highways in California. And then when it was happening, they started coming out with specials. World's scariest police chases. You know, remember Fox used to run those back in the mid-90s? And then right at around that same exact time, 97, early 98, it was rumored, it came out that they were working on a new Need for Speed. What was it called this time? What let's use Need for Speed Hot Pursuit. It was genius. Because at the time in America, we were so infatuated with hot pursuits, with pursuits in general, that we were striving to watch them on TV. I mean, out in California, you know, if there was a pursuit on TV, or even on like CNN would stop broadcasting whatever show was on to show the pursuit, because that's what gained ratings. So EA capitalized on that, being that the company, their headquarters is in Redwood, California. I'm pretty sure they've seen a lot of those chases a lot, and they figured, what a great concept for a game. Make a game called Hot Pursuit, have the cops chase after you. In the PC version, you can beat the cops and try and chase after them. What a perfect concept. So, that's in my theory of how Hot Pursuit came to life. And that's one of the reasons why I believe the game was such a major success, is just that's what was going on in America. We were believing in all these pursuits. You know, and just, we wanted to be part of the action. We wanted to see the action. We wanted to be in the middle of it. Holy crap! Oh, yeah. Won the race upside down. So that's why Need for Speed, in my opinion, really took off in popularity after that.
Congratulations! You've got a top 10 time for this track.
They took off massive popularity. So but that's not the only thing. EA at the same time, it was fun. It seemed like it was fun to work at EA. Whether that's true or not, everybody has their horror stories. It just seemed like it was a fun time, especially for EA. The amount of games EA was pumping out. And it was kind of like literally I'll probably say between 96 and about 2000. Everything EA was shitting out, like if someone at EA would take a shit, it would turn to gold. At that time, EA could have put, this is a racing game, it is total shit. We're going to etch the word shit, but put this on it, it would turn to gold. That's just what they could do back then. It's like they had the talent. But the talent seemed to split up and go different directions. Now, what's funny is very few people that worked on this game worked on Hot Pursuit 2, and that was only 4 years later. So 4 years after this game came out, almost every one of the creators are nil. Now, a lot of these same creators that were working on these games were also, musically wise, at least some of the same, I don't know about some of the lead programmers, but I know a lot of them were working exclusively with, they were working with the EA brand of games, the EA Sports. That was their, and EA Sports at the time, if you remember, everybody said, oh, EA's the greatest now, oh, Madden. It wasn't always like that with Madden and all that. This is at a time where EA literally had to fight people. Had to fight different companies. First of all, you had Midway, which had NFL Blitz. Then you had another company, which I can't remember, that had NFL Extreme. You also had, I believe, you had 989 Studio. I believe it was 989 that took it over in 1998. So you had 989, which was essentially a Sony company. Or it was a subdivision of Sony before they completely dissolved it, and Sony was like, well, we're taking the reins back of this one. That's a whole nother fucking story. So you had that going for it. I mean, you had just so many different companies where they had to compete with. Now with hockey, it was Sony had their NHL Breakaway series, which I do have that. NHL Breakaway got a funny kind of Easter egg in it. If you ever get a chance to score 7 goals, the announcer says, especially if you're the home team, the announcer says something unique. Let's put it that way. It's not too unique, but it's just like, what the fuck was that? You know, it's like, who scores 7 goals in a hockey game, anyways? But so EA was competing with that. So at the time, this was a very competitive company. And I mean, and if you really think about all the games that are out there today. What is Need for Speed competing? Who are they competing? Or should I say, who is EA competing? EA is not really competing with anybody. Are they competing? Is Need for Speed definitely competing with other racing games? Yes. But I'm sorry, Gran Turismo is on Gran Turismo, first of all, is in another category. You know, as far as that would go. So Need for Speed will never get to that category. They will never reach it, never get there. No. If you want, basically, I'll give you this. I own both, fucking Gran Turismo and this game. And it was like, if I want to fuck around with cops, have some arcade driving, I'll play this. If I want to go on a track and see if I can literally in my car and try and beat the best time at like a Nuremberg ring or some shit, Gran Turismo. That was it. So, I mean, EA didn't have too much competition back then, but, I mean, what competition does EA really have now? What competition does any, franchise have now? Look at all the games out there. Yes, they have mobile, they have all the indie developers. They have all the indie developers. But, I mean, what do the indie developers have going for them? I love the fact that they're small, but the only thing that scares me about a lot of indie developers is, eventually one of these days, the PS3, unfortunately, is going to go offline for good. And what I'm afraid is going to happen is that the DRM in a lot of these games that you download will be nullified. Because it will be no longer connected online or some shit. So that's the only fear I have about indie developers. What's funny is a lot of the indie developers, that I have seen and come across get their inspiration from literally the 1997 to about 2000 era worth of gaming. And a lot of people consider that, like, if there was ever a golden age in gaming, like, don't get me wrong, PlayStation 2, the door flew the fuck open. I mean, with the system, no one had ever seen a system like that. Not to say Dreamcast wasn't powerful or anything like that, but I mean,
3, 2,
Sony pretty much had...
1, go!
It was weird, like, when Xbox came in the market, Microsoft had an uphill battle with it. I mean, don't get me wrong, like, the first Xbox sold like shit. But it sold well enough to where it got a lot of people's attention. And I believe Xbox came out in 2001, like a year and a half later, something like that. And, it just kind of it already came pre-built with the internet built into it. Had the landline built into it, Halo, it had don't get me wrong, the first fucking Xbox blew the PlayStation 2 out of the water. I mean, as far as graphics were to go, they were generally the same. But I mean, I want to say the original Xbox had a faster CPU. It had a hard drive in it. So it almost instantaneously took out the need for memory cards. And in that regard, Microsoft, in a way, if they wanted, Originally, if they wanted to make money off of it, they were doing one of two things. They were either really trying to say, this is where gaming is going, and you will no longer need a memory card, and which people are in favor of. Or you can still buy them. You know, they did have them if you want to go on the go, but there was a lot of people who didn't buy them. Because you could save it right on your hard drive. And for me, being a Sony mark that I was, kind of still am, but I look at it and I go, that really is great. I mean, PlayStation 2 memory card. You could fill that fucker up, an 8 megabyte card, yeah, 8 meg. That's laughable today. You could fill that 8 meg card up extremely quick. Literally, you know, one replay or one Madden save could take up a fucking huge ass chunk of that. And maybe only get 2 or 3 games out of it. That was the same problem that, believe it or not, the PlayStation 1 had. It's a memory card. Gran Turismo took up 6 blocks. 6 blocks! Which I believe each card, I don't think they were 1 megabyte cards. I think they were 100 kilobyte cards. I think each block was 100 kilobytes or something like that. But 6 blocks. That was literally, I think most memory cards were 12. So that was half your memory. You know, Need for Speed you'd be lucky to, but I mean, sports games. Like, I'll give you an example. NHL 99. It has literally 2 fucking,
It's the final
takes up
lap.
2 blocks. One for your settings, and one for all your general saves, everything else, trades, things like that. And I think you had even to save another block when you were saving tournaments. It was just, you know, so I mean, that was a huge problem Sony had an uphill battle with. And even though PlayStation 2 came out, even though Sony came out and literally wiped the floor with
You're busted. You've got no place on the road.
and even though Sony came out guns a-blazing, you know, with the PlayStation 2, Microsoft came out a year later, the hard drive built in, a network adapter built in. It only supported broadband only. I mean, like I said, I was never a big fan of Microsoft coming into the game. I was like, Sony's going to crush them, they'll never last, blah, blah, blah. But Bill Gates has $1 bazillion, so that would never happen. But looking back on it, the original Xbox basically shaped up what today's games were about. And PlayStation tried. They knew where that was going.
You are busted. You've no place on the road. Next time.
You know, PlayStation, by the time they launched the PlayStation 2, they knew what they wanted to do with it. It's just some of the major features that they wanted to push with it never, ever took off. Now, and a great example, I mean, the network adapter is great. I loved it, but let's face it, the network adapter was there for one purpose. And the reason why it wasn't there on launch mainly was, well, online gaming at that time was almost nil. They knew they wanted to expand online gaming. But it was like they didn't have the PlayStation Network where everything hooks up in one central hub and you play your games off of there. Now, see, that's another thing. Microsoft had their own Microsoft account already instilled. You had to pay money to play online for the most part. Or you had to at least pay, you had to pay the service, just like Xbox Live. You had to pay the Xbox Live service. They were doing that back in 2001, 2002. You know, so they had already had, but that was even then, that was still kind of sketchy because, I mean, that was only for a few games. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't for that many games they really required Xbox Live. Or I think it was Xbox Live, or Better Over Live is what they used to say.
You've won the race.
I know the original Xbox Live, basically, they were told we have dedicated servers for these games. But at the time, a lot of companies, they really didn't
Congratulations! You've got a top 10 time for this
really
track.
didn't have servers set up. So it was kind of like literally, let's give you an example. I want to play Madden Online. All right. Well, what would happen if you wanted to play Madden Online? Okay, you hook up your game, and when you connect to the server, you would not be connecting to the PlayStation. PlayStation literally had no... The only interaction you and Madden at that point had between online, or should I say Sony and that, is the fact that it was going through their network after. That was it. Aside from that, that's the only correlation. It was literally going to EA servers. So what also came to light was you had no regulation. You know, you had... I'm pretty sure you might have had some oversight with, you know, with like Sony, but you had absolutely no regulation as to how the games were presented, how the games were played on. You know, you didn't see any of the traffic, so to speak. So that was their one mistake. I forgot what my original topic was. The original Xbox, like I said, I didn't... But what I was getting at as far as developers, maybe that's where my original point was going, is PlayStation, it was basically what I'm saying, is 96 to about 2000 era was an open market for creativity. I mean, really, look back. Look at every game on the market today. Look at every single game in the market today. Most of their creative ideas are coming from the golden age of gaming. I mean, you know, you could say Nintendo's always had a golden age of gaming. There's a difference. Nintendo had a really good golden age of gaming. That was like 86 to about 89. That was their golden age of gaming. And that's where pretty much a lot of things started. But it really wasn't until PlayStation, you know, and the N64, and even the beginning of the Dreamcast, that you see so much innovation, so much shit was coming out from these consoles that were just... that you had never seen before. And these were new titles. These were fresh titles. These weren't rehashed. And what happened over the past 15 years or so is they've rehashed every single title out there almost. I mean, let's put it this way. Unfortunately, the sad truth is Medal of Honor turned into Battlefield.
Go!
It essentially did, even though I want to say Battlefield 1 came out in 2004, and I want to say one of the last Medal of Honors came out that year, or 2005 maybe. It was Medal of Honor Rising Sun, I think, was like really the last one I was playing on PS2. I want to say it was about 2004. I remember playing online.
This is the police.
So,
Reduce your speed.
and after that, they kind of just turned Medal of Honor into, you know, and to Activision's credit, I'm not going to discredit them, but Activision and Microsoft's credit, they started Call of Duty, which is pretty much everybody. Because back then, I looked at it, I was like, Jesus Christ, Microsoft and Medal of Honor, they have to create their own. But it worked. They didn't find out until years later why it worked. Some of the developers that were from Rareware went to Activision, helped create, I believe, like the first couple of Call of Duties. So that's the reason why they went where they were. And then the PS2 was just staggering. You know, let's put it this way: EA, the Medal of Honor series was great until literally they. After Medal of Honor, or whatever, what are they called on the PC? I want to say it was for PlayStation 2. After that game, Medal of Honor just nosedived. It's like, what more can you really say about World War II with the same game? You know, how many times did the same team have Patterson into battle? You know, at this point, Because, I mean, at the end of the most Medal of Honor, the war was practically over. So, I mean, you know, there were great games from their time, but after that game, even I noticed, I'm like, there's something wrong with this. It's not right. You know, Medal of Honor series is and it clearly shows when they pretty much abandon it. You don't see Medal of Honor anymore. Now, in my heart, I would say, oh, I would love to see them bring that back, but and in all actuality, I'm glad they, you know, they need to kill. I mean, essentially, in my opinion, they renamed the franchise Battlefield. Yeah, that's just what they did. They renamed the Battlefield. Now, I'm kind of glad they left Medal of Honor where it was. By the time I want to say the first Battlefield again was World War II. You know, so they were droning on.
It's the final lap
until Battlefield 2 or Battlefield 2 Modern Combat.
Stop before you get hurt.
That they finally, you know, kind of look like what today's games have turned into. But I mean, they need to get, but you know, but at the same time, they abandoned the Medal of Honor, which, in my opinion, I'm happy because that's what they need to do. What I was getting at earlier is that's what they need to do with Need for Speed, is they need to abandon it.
You're busted. You've got no place on the road.
Anything else, like Need for Speed Shift. No, just call it Shift. Drop the Need for Speed name. Selling it on a name that literally doesn't have anything, that the original intention of the game is no benefit whatsoever. Call it just Shift. You know, call Need for Speed or Underground just Underground Racing. Anything other than Need for Speed. You know, why kill a dead horse? Because all it does is it gives you, because people eventually look at this, one of these days they will stop these games. And it's like and it's basically like when you take some of the great games that came out of like the NES, and the further time goes along, the further away those first installments are, like the PlayStation 1 gets away from time, gets away from, you know, their franchise, and they flood the market with just pure garbage. More and more people are going to forget, or they're not going to remember, or they're too young, or they weren't even willing when these games originally came out, people remember anybody playing them, and they're never going to organically just stumble upon them. They're never going to play them, because basically someone's going to say, oh, the original Need for Speeds were good. And they're going to go, Need for Speed? Ooh. Like, that franchise was horrible. Look at all these games that come out. They were this, they were fucking horrible. And who the hell wants that? Ooh, he's a little Arresto. Yeah. It's like, who wants to play that, you know? One of these days, EA has got to kill me. I'm sorry. I don't care if you're a
Stop your car.
EA has beat that game to a bloody pulp. Mainly because it had no competition. I want to say this year is the first year that other companies can actually make another football game with the NFL license. I really believe so. I think it is. I remember hearing it back in, I think it was 2005. A buddy of mine came up to me and said, they just got the exclusive rights with the NFL for the next 10 years. And I'm like, 10 years? I'm like, 2015? They're like, yeah. And I'm like, fuck that. It's like, hell with that.
You've won the race.
You know, and that's when I kind of stopped paying attention to Madden. Was really after that. It's like they have no competition now.
Congratulations! You've got a top 10 time
And
for this
it was
track.
just so, you know, because I like the 2K sports game. I like 2K. I like NFL 2K because it reminded me. It wasn't too complicated. Madden overcomplicates everything in that game. The kicking, the stats, everything has to be so goddamn perfect. You want to know one football game that a lot of people tote as the best football game ever made, and are still toting it that way? And this game is modded over and over and over and over and over again every year. It's It's a little game called Super Tecmo Bowl. It came out for the NES. Why is it revered as the best football game ever made? It was simple, but yet just complicated enough where you could literally tweak the stats of each player. Some players run faster, some players run slower, some players don't catch as well. You could tweak that, even for an NES game, tweaking all that shit, and have the game fairly simple. Okay, kick, you do this, bam. Depending how good your kicker is, the ball may go straight, the ball may not. Depending how good accuracy he has, it takes everything and simplified it so well that it makes it great. And so, yeah, it's just great. I'm not really even sure what else to say. The game is just spectacular. I mean, like I said, I look at EA back then, and I look at these games now, and I just go, I mean, everybody has to say the same thing. What the hell happened to this company? And a lot of it, I'll be honest with you, a lot of it necessarily wasn't their fault. It was just... I have to say, a lot of it wasn't even their fault necessarily, but a fault was these companies became too big. And what I mean by that is they put the smaller developers, just like anything else, like think of EA, Activision,
3, 2,
and
1, go!
Squaresoft, all the big major AAA companies out there. What they started doing in the early 2000s is they started buying up all of these developers and essentially closing them up. And a great example of that was 989 Studios. Now, a lot of these companies worked in partnerships with, a lot of like Sony and things like that. They weren't owned by them, but they were partners with them. 989 was definitely a partner with Sony. And what happened by the early 2000s, 989, their budget shrank by around 90, probably around Cyber Filter 3. But after that, they literally put all their money into that budget. And the budget was nil. They didn't have that much budget. The game kind of turned out horrible. And it wasn't that it turned out horrible. I should say the game didn't turn out horrible. I like the game, but you have 3 games that came out, not even back to back. You had 3 games that came out for the PlayStation 1. And they were so identical that if you were to see screenshots of each one of them, you couldn't tell them apart. They used the same exact graphic engine, 3 times over, same exact motion capture, everything. And they did that to save money. It worked, but it was just... The critics had their way with those games. And at that time, Sony was just like, alright, the jig is up. We are going to support your product. Or Sony came to him with a big grin and was like, we know you don't have the money for this. Let us take over your company. Which they did. Sony's like, let us take over your company. We'll take over your IPs. Some of your major IPs. Or
You're
like,
busted. You've got no place on the road.
I won't ask you again.
They're like, let us take these over for you. We will give you the money to work on these games. And essentially they did. And then a couple years later, they completely closed up the company. The company was good enough to cash, and they were like, yeah, let's do it. It was smart business. Let's put that in there. They had smart business. So Sony eventually completely acquired 989 Studios. And they released, and they were still releasing, 989 at that time, they were still releasing like your sports titles and all that, but they were doing, but this time they were doing under the stressful, watchful eye of Sony.
Highway patrol, stop your car! Pull
They were doing them.
You're
What the?
busted! busted! Don't let me catch
That's a
you
glitch.
speeding again! This is your last warning!
It's the
Did you
final
see
lap.
that? It didn't say I was busted. I was just able to take off, but... Alright, that's a glitch. But, no, they acquired, I believe they were fully acquired 99 Studios. And then they released Section 4 for the Omega. That was literally the only game I think they were releasing in 2014. That I believe that they left the sports type of division intact. I want to say the last game they made for the sports title was like NFL Game Day, like 2003 or 2004. And that was the last time they made that, because I want to say in 2004 or 5 they pretty much completely pulled the plug. Actually, it was about that time. I want to say they really did pull the plug on they didn't officially make it defunct. I don't think until 2006. But by about 2005, that company was they were making some completely took over. Either they took them over or they completely scrapped it. That was a downfall of that. Yeah, and another quote-unquote thing. I'll give you another example of a great company that went under. When I was a concept company, again, a small company, a little company called Monarchs. They didn't. I want to say they worked on some of like the MTV music generator for PlayStation 1, but they really didn't come to fame until they worked on the frequency for PS2. It was so new and inventive that it caught the eye of someone in Activision. Because it definitely caught the eye of someone in Activision. Someone at Harmonix or whatever. Oh, there's the Titanic. They caught the eye of someone at Activision, and they said, let's team up and let's make this game called Guitar Hero, using pretty much the same thing. Which they did. And at that same time, if you remember, this is when Activision went completely fucking bonkers. I mean, they went banana shit. They were like, yes, they were like, part of this. They were so high on the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater shit. They were like, yes, Tony Hawk, yes. They were like, yes, music, yes, everybody's in love with us. And they flooded the fucking market. And when I mean flooded the market, you know, they flooded the market with Guitar Hero everything. Guitar Hero 2, yeah, they flooded the market with that.
You placed last.
But it wasn't until... and Guitar Hero 2, I believe, was the last one made by Harmonix. After that, they completely sold the IP.
Congratulations! You've got a top 10 time for this track.
Direct control for it. It's not that the game turned out bad. It's just the game turned out, you know, they went bonkers with the rights. I mean, musicians, for whatever reason, either musicians or the company was just spending so much cash licensing this music to get the music rights. And a lot of it was, see, Harmonix, you know, even though Activision was publishing the game, Harmonix, they had no other, you know, they couldn't afford the full licensing of the track. You know, so basically what they licensed was, they went to him and said, we want to license the music. Okay, it's going to be this. All right, we're not doing that. How much, if we can we get the right, they basically said, can we get the rights to, you know, cover the music and put it in the game, your songs? And they said, yeah, here's the amount for that. And which was substantially cheaper. So it wasn't until Guitar Hero 3 that you heard actual tracks. And that's because Activision took over and they threw all their cash at it. So, yeah, and then they flooded the market with Tony Hawk. Like, it was Tony Hawk, this, Tony Hawk, that. pretty much what it's what I'm seeing. But Activision is making the same mistake with Call of Duty. Now, it's just they're flooding the market with it. Not only that, but they licensed the name out to another company, Triad, which is, I believe, underneath their same company, kind of like the 989 Sony deal. It's like a sub-company of theirs. And they've licensed Call of Duty out to Triad. So, I mean, Call of Duty, Call of Duty, Call of Duty. They're flooding the market with so much of this now. The only reason why I say EA's Battlefield isn't bad is, I don't know, it's just, maybe it's underrated. I'm not 100% sure, but they flood the market with it with one game a year. It's virtually the same thing, but I don't know. They just Call of Duty, in my opinion, is so hyped up. Activision is the writing's on the wall to where one of these days Call of Duty is going to collapse. And if Activision doesn't start getting their act together, they're going to collapse. I mean, literally, that company right now, they're riding high with saying, we're selling this, we're selling that. They're so high up on that board. But what other Activision game is out there that you can honestly tell me or think of that they have that will bring them money if Call of Duty goes kaput? Or if the sales substantially drop? Or if people just say, fuck this game? You don't. I can't think of one. I can't think of another Activision game. It is non-existent. So, I mean, Activision got lucky twice. The Activision got lucky twice. The fallout from the Tony Hawk was incredible. Like, if you remember, they're like, Tony Hawk Rise, you can do this. The fallout from that game was just staggering. It was horrible fallout. And after that, they never released another Tony Hawk. And it was nothing, like I said, it was after that they never released another Tony Hawk game. What the hell? Why is this doing? Alright. I don't know what that is about. But they never released another Tony Hawk game after that. And then it was around the same time that they, because everybody jumped on the Guitar Hero craze. I'm talking about Rock Band, which was EA's little baby. Now, funny thing, after Harmonix completely lost the rights, or they just completely gave up their IP to Activision, there's another. They actually, if you look on the Rock Band credits, you will see Harmonix Studios listed in the credits. Harmonix went on to produce some of the games for EA, which, Rock Band was EA's baby, which EA quickly abandoned. Basically, it was kind of like someone that notices, that says, oh, this stock is really high up right now. Let's buy a whole bunch of that right now. And right before it crashed, EA sold everything and dropped off. They made like 2 Rock Bands, we're done. And they sold everything off because they knew that ship was going to crash. And Activision, they also knew that was going to crash. So they got out of that market, but they were already suffering blows from the Tony Hawk game that they had produced with another accessory, mind you. So after Activision did that, what's the only other game I can really know of Activision? It was Call of Duty. So now Activision has everything that 90% of Activision's stock, I shouldn't say 90%. The majority, a lot of it is in the Call of Duty franchise. They've got to nurse the shit out of it, because if they don't, and they fuck up, let's put it this way. Activision cannot allow themselves to pull an Ubisoft. And, Assassin's Creed, I'm sorry. Assassin's Creed, Unity, whatever you want to call it, that, in my opinion, is probably going to be the last quote-unquote Assassin's Creed. yes, they say another one's in the works, but you know, it's with the technical flaws that they had so massively, it was damning to that company. And that was Ubisoft's baby. Now, Ubisoft came out lucky. The only reason why that company has a tank is because technically that company is still producing other games that are decent. The other game they produced was a South Park and the Stick of Truth last year. I believe if it wasn't for that game coming out, at least on their brand, Ubisoft would have almost most certainly went under this holiday season. Because that makes you look back and go, I don't know if I want to buy an Ubisoft game anymore. Because the quality is shit, and I gotta wait for a patch. I'm not fucking spending my hard-earned dollars on that. So I mean, Call of Duty, or should I say Activision, they have to be very careful about the games they release. That's why, in my opinion, the games, they all look the same. They use pretty much the same engine. They don't change it up too often. Is because if something like that were to happen, they would be fucked. But see, here's the thing. If it was on the single-player campaign mode, more than half the people wouldn't even notice it. That wouldn't matter to them. But if it happened on their multiplayer mode, where things were glitching out consistently, and it wasn't, and it's consistent on the PS3 or should I say, on PlayStation and Xbox, then they'd be totally fucked. And basically what it is, if I'm not a big Call of Duty fan because it's getting really repetitive. I mean, really repetitive. So I mean, it's gotten to the point where it's so repetitive that even now, a lot of people are just... Kids today are seeing... You're seeing a change. That company will have to change its tune, or it's going to go defunct and out of business. Or another company is going to try and acquire them. Which is bad all around. You see better indie games coming out that are better than some of these AAA games. Hands down. Steam is loaded with them. The PlayStation market is loaded with them. But it's... All I'm saying, Ubisoft, you gotta watch the fuck out. And I think they're on pins and needles. Not Ubisoft, fucking Activision. Well, Ubisoft too, for that matter. But Activision, if I was Activision, I would be developing a new PI, PO, whatever it is, IPO on a different game, on a different genre. Take some of your Call of Duty money, because your fan base is going to be there regardless. Take some of your Call of Duty money and go, let's invest in this idea. And let's put out a game of that as a AAA title. Because if you don't, and you don't start inventing, and inventing quick, people are going to turn. Now, the PlayStation 4 is going on its now second year. Even though it came out in November of last year, but it's going relatively on its second year. The games that are going... This, in my opinion, is going to determine the fate of a lot of video game companies as to what games are now coming out. They need to do something... I don't care what system it is, Xbox One or whatnot. They need to do something brand fucking new. Like, they just need to revolutionize. But they can't... But this is my opinion. They can't go too extreme. Because if you go too extreme, you're never going to catch an audience. But you got to go into such a different direction where it goes, wow, I have to have this. Alright, I don't know what else to say. I've droned on long enough, even though plenty. But on that note, I'm going to say, see you later. Goodbye. I guess I'll let this demo roll out for you because who the fuck doesn't love this demo? Who the fuck doesn't love this music? What I'm basically saying is Need for Speed 3 kicks ass, and it was one of the best ones in my opinion, which consumed a lot of my childhood. Yeah. This consumed my childhood. Good night, everybody. See you later. Goodbye.